nice out.
You're always cold.
All right, Al, it's all you.
All right.
Beat on your thumbs.
Danielle?
The meeting tonight is for the conduct of town business by the town board. The public is invited to participate at the items marked on the agenda, public comment. During that segment of the meeting, if you have a question or a comment for the supervisor, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. Please state your full name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand for a moment of silence for our brave men and women fighting all over the world for democracy and freedom, especially those in harm's way. We also pray for the people in Texas. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. You got a cold?
Yes, I do.
Oh, what? Motion to approve minutes from the August 14, 2017 town board meeting.
I'll motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Motion to approve minutes from the August 14, 2017 public hearing.
Make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
By the way, that public hearing is still open. Authorized payment of bills for the amount of $117,316.15.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Tonight we have a presentation from Joel. How you doing, Joel?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having me. Just getting it powered up here.
This is about solar development process.
All right, let me sign here.
No, that's good, Jerry.
That's good, probably.
Is that good, Joe?
That should be all right. Let's see. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, yeah, so thank you for having me. My name is Joel Santisteban. I'm here representing two entities, really. LAM Development, that is a solar developer. We're a solar developer in New York State and only in New York State, as well as Sun Energy. Sun Energy is a community choice aggregation administrator, and I'll get into what that is a little later, but it's relevant to solar and solar's kind of infiltration in the state. So, solar energy in New York, what does it mean for your community, the town of Marlborough? First and foremost, we like to lead off with kind of the bigger picture. You all may be aware of Governor Cuomo's initiative, REV, Reforming the Energy Vision. What you can see on the screen here are the three kind of main goals of that initiative. 50% of all electricity to come from renewable resources by 2030, 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 levels, and 23% reduction in energy consumption from 2012 levels. So that's kind of the high level, big picture. Part of the reason why the state's incentivizing renewable development, and solar helps to accomplish that vision. It hits all three of those line items. You can see, obviously, it's a renewable source, no emissions, and by virtue of placing production near consumption, you increase efficiency. So what are we talking about when we talk about solar development? There are several kind of tiers. LAM Development is a commercial solar developer. So what that means is we build and develop systems like this. This here is a 2 megawatt facility. It produces approximately 3 million kilowatt hours on an annual basis. And the space that it's occupying is approximately 12 to 15 acres. no more than 20 would you expect the system to take and to occupy. That's dependent on geographical factors and what you kind of have to work around.
Where is that located?
What's that?
Where is that located? That particular-
This is just an example I
Just
pulled
an-
off. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I do have, which I can pull up a little later, a couple of what we call conceptual site plans. These are, I'll pull it up now since we're looking at what systems look like. One of which is on a property that's owned by the town of Marlborough, so you can get a feel for what this looks like. This is just another picture I kind of pulled off the internet. Gives you an idea of just how simple the structure is and how kind of it's a low in position facility. So real quick, I'll exit out of this and I'll pull up these site plans that we put up. Because originally we reached out to the town interested in this property. So what you see here is an example of a conceptual site plan for a 2 megawatt facility. And the reason we build 2 megawatt facilities, by the way, is it's a regulatory cap for what's called net energy metering. That allows us to effectively stuff power into the grid. We receive a credit, and then we sell that credit to users and help them offset their utility bills and save money. So this is located, if I zoom in, let's see. Let's zoom in. I can get you the address here. This is going to make it big. So the address here is, you probably will know where this is, 20 Bailey's Gap Road.
That's the transfer station, right?
The transfer station.
Yeah, we know where it is.
Yeah.
We know what that is.
So that's just an example of a property. You can see there's some coloration on the screen. The yellow is high sloping areas, and the blue those are wetlands, both of which we avoid. We take land siting very seriously. We've actually narrowed down in the state. There's 5 million in the whole state. There's 5 million tax lots. We boiled that down to approximately 15,000 what we consider perfect parcels for solar. And so we're just looking to identify those parcels and encourage the development, work with landowners, enter into lease agreements, purchase sale agreements, whatever is most economical. Generally, we like to site facilities on properties that really have no other kind of economic benefit. They're just kind of sitting there, not monetizing.
So what does the blue represent?
The blue would be the solar panels.
That's what I
And this is an aerial view.
Okay.
The gray is just the access road. That's a requirement of developing these facilities, fire truck access.
How many acres is that taking up
This is occupying approximately 12 acres.
without taking trees down, or you have to take trees down?
You would have to take trees down, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the one negative side effect of solar development.
Yeah.
There's no way around it in many cases. We do, naturally, our argument is that kind of the carbon cost of eliminating all those trees is far outweighed by replacing fossil fuel production with 2 megawatts worth of solar.
All right. And you said how many acres? 12 acres?
Approximately 12 to 15
For
per 2 megawatt
2
system.
megawatts.
So I'll
The
go back.
setbacks are set by the state, or?
The setbacks would be set locally.
Okay.
Yeah, we do
Oh,
this.
they did that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, the next slide here is governing solar development. First things first, you need a local solar law. A lot of municipalities don't have those, and that kind of is dangerous in our mind. We think it's prudent for the municipality and for developers who want to work in that municipality to work underneath the guidelines set by the local government. And so in a local solar law, you'll define your setbacks, you'll define height restrictions, the necessity for a fence, which we require anyway, and a number of other things. And we work with municipalities to help develop those. Yours is already in place, so that's a benefit for sure. And the second thing is payment in lieu of taxes, pilot programs. I'm sure you're familiar with that term. In New York State, solar facilities are exempt from real property tax law, 487, for 15 years from the commercial operation date of the facility. And so, we believe that although kind of against what you would think, a developer would kind of motivate a local government to do, we believe that it's not fair for a municipality to miss out on those taxes. And so we encourage, rather than opting out of that real property tax law exemption, which would mean the facility is taxed at 100%, whatever the real property tax is, you enter into a pilot. You don't opt out of that exemption. You enter into a pilot and instead receive a portion of what would otherwise be taxed. We've done studies in some municipalities that went from, opted out of that exemption. We found solar development in those municipalities kind of just completely phase out. Nobody was interested because frankly, there's plenty of land. So why am I going to develop in a town that taxes me at 100% when I can just simply go next door and I'm only taxed via a pilot at 35% or 40%? We've worked with towns to implement these as well. We have templates for all these types of things. So governing solar development is critical. What are the benefits? There are numerous benefits. The top three we like to talk about is the expansion of your tax base. Right? This is a $5 million facility. That is significant improvement on the property that we develop on, and so it's a revenue stream for the community. Monetize your land, be it privately owned or municipal owned. To give you an idea of the lease agreement that we would enter into, it is $24,000 annually with a 2% escalator. Generally competitive with any other means of monetizing a lot of this, generally farmland or whatever the case may be, or just completely uneconomical land otherwise. So monetize your land and then lower your electricity price. The short of it is solar is cheaper, has been becoming cheaper and continues to get cheaper. And so by virtue of kind of technological advances, we are very confident we can provide value to the community with no upfront investment on your behalf. Back to the kind of state incentives. The state has a number of different grants out there. These are two that we highlight. Clean energy communities. Numerous grants available within that, as well the local government efficiency program, both aimed at kind of propagating renewable energy and increasing efficiency. Solar does both of those things, and even more so, specifically with regard to the CEC program, community choice aggregation also does that. Community choice aggregation at a high level, we have a couple of kind of slides to help explain, is this ability for a community to come together, bundle their demand, and then procure it from a energy supplier, an ESCO, like a Direct Energy, a Green Mountain Energy, things like that, companies like that. And so by doing that, you kind of can take advantage of economies of scale, collective bargaining, as well, specifically with the program that Sun Energy advocates for. You can procure energy from distributed energy resources like solar facilities, CCAs exist in the state, but nowhere else, and at no time before this has solar been able to be an option for a CCA. So now you're getting this ability to get the whole community together and take those benefits that solar provides and that the CCA inherently provides and share it with not only municipal accounts, let's say, but the residents. The state's very big on low, moderate income residents and benefiting them to the greatest extent possible, as well as the businesses. And so inherently you're going to retain businesses and kind of boost the local economy. So we actually created a little video. This will kind of help explain this concept of how solar wraps into a CCA program. Here we go.
A CCA, or Community Choice Aggregation, will harness the power of the sun and revolutionize the way residents and businesses purchase electricity. The best way to understand this exciting program is through an energy bill. Let's take a look. This is your standard electricity bill. Right now, you receive a bill that looks just like this. much you pay. The delivery charge is the cost of bringing you power through existing electricity lines. Through the CCA program, the community will benefit from clean solar energy. Your energy costs will decrease, and you will receive a lower electricity bill. Sounds too good to be true? It's not. Why don't we take this time to explain how it's all possible? Solar energy has become cheaper than coal and natural gas, which is where utilities buy most of their energy from. This change will save you money. In a CCA program, your bill will continue to come from your same utility, and your power will be delivered through the same electricity lines. There will be no change in how you pay your bill. However, a portion of your electricity now comes from solar. This will be shown just below the delivery charges. Here you will see the amount of solar power received, the cost of that solar energy, what you would have been charged without solar energy, and your monthly savings. Community choice aggregation puts the community first. Communication is the most important key to our success. A dedicated team of customer support specialists will be available around the clock to answer any and all questions. Their contact information will be prominently displayed on every single bill. The transition to solar energy reduces costs, creates an economic boom, produces local jobs, and lowers pollution. It's your turn to take charge and make a difference. That will be seen and heard across the county, state, and nation.
And so that's kind of a high level of this program that I'm referring to. And again, the idea is for it to kind of expedite solar development across the state, really, but more specifically within municipalities to help benefit from all the things that we've mentioned. And now, just a few more slides on community choice aggregation. And by all means, please cut me off if there are questions. Community choice aggregation effectively replaces the utility as the main supplier of energy. They no longer, as the market has deregulated, they no longer produce power. They buy power from outside sources and they deliver it to you. We would effectively replace them, take the community's demand, and go procure that power on our own. We take the decision as a collective, the administrator and all the municipalities in the program, we take that initiative to make the decision ourselves, the energy decision. And so now we can procure it from more renewable sources, we can procure it from solar. But that doesn't mean we don't need the utility. This is kind of the layout of the current landscape. Who's making the decisions, what types of energy, who's distributing, who's billing and collecting, and who the customer service would be. And this is how it would change in a CCA. The community would be making the decisions. You'd be able to source from solar. The utility is still very involved, which is why we consider it a partnership, three-way partnership. We require their distribution lines and their billing and payment. None of that changes. But now Sun and Energy, the CCA administrator, would come in and represent the community and the municipalities with regard to these decisions. This is what the coordinator would do. It really is just a medium for all parties involved. DERs and ESCOs. DERs, again, distributed energy resources, solar facilities. ESCOs, you may be familiar with, energy service companies, generally bigger power producers. At the end of the day, solar can't do it all. So again, just reiterating some of these benefits, which now can kind of work across the entire municipality, residents and businesses. We expect conservatively 5 to 15% in the early stages of these programs at the more solar. As the program grows, the more value added. The more municipalities, the more collective bargaining power, the more value added. And obviously, more money in the pockets of residents and businesses, stronger local economy, retention of business, attraction of business as well. We speak to creating new jobs. A program like this and solar development in general requires local jobs, right? The administrator needs call center reps to field questions from the community. We'll be continuously outreaching to the community in this effort to educate in this way. as well. Solar facilities, you need construction, you need operation, maintenance. Generally, this is sourced locally, given development is local. Obviously, it's beneficial for the environment. And then the last slide I have here, just with regard to kind of the steps. Solar development is really straightforward in that you're kind of working with a developer like myself, like LAM Development, to site land. We go through the permitting board and so forth. For a program like this, it would require a local regulation, a CCA law, in the same way that you just passed a local solar law. This law effectively gives the municipality the option. It does no more than just give you the option to establish or to participate. So we would establish those local regulations. We would then begin to outreach, again, in this way, more intimate with the community, hosting events, whatever the case may be, we're thinking fairs, fireworks, get the people, make sure the people are informed. Then we would simply send out a letter, and by virtue of aggregating this demand, we'll be able to develop solar, we'll be able to begin our energy service operations. And again, one feeds the other, right? Solar development is beneficial for the community. This incentivizes solar development, and so helps proliferate across the community and across the state. And that's all. Any questions?
Yeah, lots of questions.
Yeah,
Sure, sure. Oh, please.
The proposed Bailey's Gap site, the transfer station,
I'm sorry?
the transfer station site that's being proposed that you have on the map,
Sure.
the amount of power that would be produced there, does that require any infrastructure upgrades to the delivery system, the distributors such as Central Hudson? Are they gonna have to put in heavier duty lines, transmission lines?
That's a great question.
Where are they gonna go? And
There's no three-phase there, so
Yeah.
that's a big concern of past solar people that usually develop on landfills,
Right.
and they found that it wasn't economically viable to do it because of Central Hudson three-phase was a little off. So you must know that.
Yes. So yeah.
Good
it's
question,
It's
Al.
a great question. Yeah. Part of our land siting, at least at LM Development, again, land siting's really the easiest way to mitigate a lot of this risk up front. We can learn a lot of information just from our computer, and we have a platform that helps us do that. We've identified where one-phase and three-phase distribution lines run throughout the entire state. And so we can tell you exactly how far that system is from a three-phase transmission line. That is a big concern, namely because we have to, the developer, that cost falls on the developer. And so we find that even though we only target land that's no more than really a mile from three-phase transmission. And so as long as we fit within that, the rule of thumb is for interconnection upgrades, about $300,000 per three-phase line from nothing to three-phase. If we have a one-phase line, from upgrading from one-phase to three-phase, it's about $100,000 per mile. Those are both very, very economically feasible. Another thing I would bring up is that these regulations are constantly changing, and we work with Central Hudson on a daily basis with their distributed energy team. And as of the past, really, couple months, the state and the joint utilities have been developing a framework to socialize those costs. So if me, LAM as a developer, we come in, we want to develop a site on a specific feeder line, and then somebody else comes in right next door, we're all of a sudden jamming all this capacity onto a line that might not be able to handle it. But that upgrade doesn't just fall on the first person who develops, it now will be socialized across every developer on that feeder line. So we've identified the property because we think it's economically feasible. And so we'd be comfortable, we estimate the interconnection upgrades, and we're confident that that would fall within our range of acceptability, which is typically in the $600,000 to $750,000 range.
Just for the interconnect.
Just for the interconnection, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, you have more questions, Alan?
No, you good.
Okay. Well, going back to your original, first of all, 2 megawatt facility, how many homes can that, or how many businesses can that support? How big a community?
Sure. Again, 3 million kilowatt hours annually. On average, that's approximately 2,500 homes.
2,500 homes?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a rule of thumb. I mean,
So that would be the size that you would go after this community,
Yes.
CCA, 2,500 homes, or,
the CCA now is kind of, it's a different beast because we can now afford the residents of a specific municipality the benefits of multiple solar facilities located really anywhere.
so so the 2,500, you could take care of the energy demands for 2,500 homes totally?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be net metering then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what if one of those homes already has solar power?
They would not participate.
They would
in the
not
credit.
participate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, and you mentioned pilot programs as a way to soften the blow in terms of
Yeah.
taxes.
Absolutely.
But then you also said it would expand your tax base.
Yep.
So those two seem to be opposing each other.
No, so the improvements on the land itself will be, assuming you implement a pilot program, or effectively create a revenue stream, a tax revenue stream, that's based on that value.
So you're assuming the land right now is not really generating much in taxes?
Yeah, it's just
Usually
whatever the
not.
property is worth, right?
Right, okay.
Typically, maybe 1,500 annually.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So it's going to be a net increase?
Yeah, ours is 0.
Yeah. In this case, yeah, we
Is
own
that
the
close?
property, yeah.
Zero.
Oh, it's zero.
Town owned.
But,
Because right, okay.
yeah.
But you're assuming any other.
But yeah,
what
say a private owner, exactly.
Yeah, so you describe yourself as a development company. So you manage the entire soup to nuts, clearing of the land, construction, installation, oversee the whole program, and maintain, you're the administrator of this system? How does
sure.
that work?
Yeah, so great question. So actually, in the industry, typically, the developer plays kind of this intermediate role, where in our case, it's a little unique where we do very much so focus on the land. And so we make sure that the land's good. We take it through the permitting process, through the interconnection process, which is lengthy. It's really the majority of the development. Construction's relatively simple. I mean, you poke some holes, you lay the racking, and you
Yeah.
slap the panels on. What will typically happen is we will take the property to the facility to what's called NTP or notice to proceed, really shovel ready, and then we will do one of two things: either continue through construction working with third parties, we call them EPCs, engineering, procurement, and construction, or we will offload that to another party who specializes in those things. Typically with bigger balance sheets, less of a burden to them fiscally, and it allows us to continue kind of operating in the realm that we specialize in, which is that development phase. The operation, the maintenance, that's not really our business. There are third-party companies out there where that's all that they do.
Okay. So all of this requires some money,
Yep.
and so somebody has to pay the bill. And the assumption is that even though you're paying a bill, let's say we have to take out a loan to do this, or a bond or something like that.
No
Okay.
No upfront costs for the municipality. Because
Okay.
because we're effectively the owner of the system as we develop it, we can quite easily procure third-party financing. They give us the loan. We bear that lien. We develop it, and then we simply sell it to them, and we collect a fee. That's the development. That's the solar development kind of business model, generally.
Right, okay.
It requires nothing from you guys. In fact, if it's municipal land, it's really just a revenue stream from the
Right.
get-go.
And the assumption is that fee, whatever your fee is still going to be, and the fact that we're getting solar energy is still going to be less than if we were to buy energy from Central Hudson.
Yeah,
Okay.
that fee is separate of what you then see on your bill. In the case of the
But the
CC
combined fee and the bill that we get from solar and energy is less than what we pay now?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because you're not paying any of that fee that we're talking about. That fee it's just what we get for our services. Us taking the land from just dirt to, permitted dirt and, ability to interconnect, right? There's value created there, and so we get a fee. That's how we get compensated as a developer. That's not related to your cost of power, your supply charge. You're simply paying
But who's paying that fee?
the fee that we make. That would be somebody who's going to finance our project. So somebody gives us money up front, right? It's a loan, a development loan. We then take the project through these milestones, right? We get the permitting approved, we get the interconnection approved, we get the engineering documents all set.
And how do you make
Then we then sell the project to that operator, that O&M, operation and maintenance.
Okay, and that's how you
They
make,
pay us the fee. They
Okay.
then operate and they receive the revenue, which is the result of you paying your utility bills.
and who is an operator, for example, now?
Yeah, there are a number of big guys out there. I mean, Solar City's operating facilities, Borrego, Cypress Creek. These are developers and operators. Good Energy is a massive one, not too busy in New York. And then there are really like asset management companies that they just own the system and they outsource those. Like the Trugan Capitals of the world, a lot of financial institutions, big pockets. It's a safe asset, really.
Right.
So,
Just one question. So that's how you make your money. You bring it to a certain point, and then you sell it to an operator who then takes over the administration of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
under the assumption that we have somebody who's going to buy that power, right? The PPA, the power purchase agreement. The facilities, it's like if you have a building and there's nobody renting any of the units, what is it really worth? If you have a facility sitting there and nobody's buying the power, it's not really worth anything. So part of that development process is locking up that power purchase agreement,
Yep.
that agreement that says somebody's going to buy this power, right? In the CCA, that's easy. In the CCA, we now have a whole bunch of municipalities coming together saying, we'll buy the power, right? We'll save the money. If it were just going to be a one-off development, which you'll see occasionally, not in the CCA program, then it would be the developer and say the municipal board, you guys, entering into this power purchase agreement where you buy these credits. It's not really power; it's these credits generally the term is 25 years, which is the length of the useful life of a facility. And so you agree to buy power at some fixed rate that typically escalates at a lower rate than what utility prices historically increased by, and you then are allocated those credits. They offset your bill. In the CCA, you don't have. In the CCA, it's all kind of funnels through to the municipality via the program.
I got a quick question too while we're on. This was going to be one of my follow-up questions, but so now you're talking that they actually have a state program where there's a pilot, right, for the local taxes, local state and county taxes.
Very common.
And it's usually around what, a 15-year term?
The exemption is a 15-year term, so yeah, the pilot typically matches that.
And then it would revert back to what the assessment,
yeah,
which would go to 100%. Now, you just brought up the fact that these facilities have a 25-year life.
Yep.
So you'd essentially have 100% at 10 years. Now, after the 25th year, what happens is the amount of power, does it decrease? I can't see it shutting off all the way, but you probably obviously haven't been in this long enough to know, and I don't think solar's been around long enough to know, but after the 25th year, what's the plan?
Yeah, it's very nascent. 25 years, again, useful life of the facility, so we take into consideration just degradation factors when you model these things out financially. Over time, it produces less and less power. Eventually, 25 years or so, 30 years at the maximum generally, these facilities are pretty much nothing but scrap metal, and that's what they're worth. So at that time, typically what we expect and what other developers expect and what some solar laws stipulate are a decommissioning agreement. We enter in those with third parties, really scrap metal guys who agree to buy the facility, for what it's worth in year 25 today. right? So it's like an option. It's like a future, a forward agreement where I'm going to buy this facility for, X percentage of what it's worth, some discounted percentage of what it would theoretically be worth for scrap. And then they come in, they rip all the metal out, silicone in the cells, and they do whatever they need to do with it.
Why wouldn't they replace it? And
Yeah, to be honest with you, as he kind of alluded to, solar is a nascent industry. It's
mean-
very likely that would be the case.
there are solar panels that were installed in the 80s, I think, are still operating, right? I mean, they're,
Yeah, absolutely.
some of them last for a long time, but
Sure, yeah.
I would think they would maintain it and keep it running.
A lot of landowners, they kind of find comfort in the fact that the land will be restored to its original condition. In the case where it's uneconomical or a landfill or something like that, and that likely will be the case. That's not within the realm of the contract that the facility will initially be under. So if that owner-operator comes in and decides, hey, let's enter into another PPA and replace the panels, and we don't have to do the racking, I see that being beneficial as well. I think it would make sense. And frankly, the technology will probably be exponentially better 25 years from now.
that was going to be my next.
Let me just jump in here.
You go ahead, Howard, jump.
So are there any municipalities in Ulster County that are doing this now with you? Or is there example like?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to think here, Town of Hyde Park, the Dutchess County we're very active in, particularly, I mean, all of these are in Central Hudson. So that's really how we think about it. We think Central Hudson utility service territory. I can build a facility in, you can build a facility in the town of Poughkeepsie and provide you guys the credits.
Right, but I'm just saying for me as the supervisor to call somebody up and say, how is this company, and is there somebody out there now that you could give me references for?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Town of Wappingers, Village of Wappingers Falls,
Okay.
I've been working closely with, specifically for the CCA program, with the expectation of solar infiltrating quickly. City of Poughkeepsie is one of our bigger ones, Town of Poughkeepsie.
Ulster County.
And you talked about the lease agreement.
Yes.
That was around $23,000 for the town?
Our standard agreement is $24,000 annually with a 2% escalator. That would initiate, however, and I'm happy to send you guys kind of a template for this agreement drawn out for this facility.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the life of that is typically 25 years, same as the life of the facility. And that lease payment would initiate once the facility is generating power or
Yep.
COD, commercial operation date.
Why is it so low?
What's that?
It's pretty low.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, if we had a cell tower, we're putting a cell tower up on one of our water tanks. It's around $22,000 per year. So I would think this huge 2 meg, maybe it'd be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe is it negotiable or?
It's yeah. I mean, we typically don't deviate from the standard form that we give out. Most landowners we're dealing with, they're quite satisfied. It's really market driven.
Okay.
And so we're not really comfortable increasing that too much. As again, these third-party financiers that I keep referring to, the project only becomes more and more attractive as that lease rate is kind of within their expectations and market expectations.
So when you come to our planning board and you go through the process, then all the escrow and everything, our engineer and lawyers, these guys pick up, right? So,
Exactly.
okay, just like any other developer.
Yeah, we would have engineers, our in-house engineers, as well as third-party engineers joining the permitting board and the planning board and the zoning board if need be. We try to avoid that.
I'll give it back to you, Alan. If I didn't get that out, I'm getting old. I would have forgot. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's sort of what I was just going to follow up a little bit more. You kind of answered that one. I thought it was the same thing. We got like 8 square feet on a tank and 12 acres up here. So the 24,000 is that like a standard? The lease.
That's
Is that
the standard.
That's for per 12 acres? I mean, or could that be 120 acres? It's 24,000.
The way LAM Development does it is per megawatt, right? So we actually, our lease says $12,000 annually per megawatt. We only build 2 megawatt systems. Economies of scale, we want to site these facilities so we can build the biggest ones possible within the regulatory cap, which is 2 megawatts.
Do you,
So the 10
do-
years, what do you guys assess that usually after the 10 years?
The system itself is valued at approximately $4 to $5 million.
Okay.
do you do anything with battery storage yet?
Not at the moment, no. I mean, that is really the future of solar.
Yeah.
Because frankly, there's only so much value you can add to the grid, given it's intermittent. And typically, most of the power that it's producing is produced before most of the demand comes in. Right? Demand typically picks up right when everybody's coming home from work,
Yep.
5 p.m., 6 p.m.
Sun's
they're
going
cooking
down.
dinner, opening the fridge, whatever,
Right.
they turn on their TV. Whereas solar really peaks around 2 p.m.
Right. So you would follow whatever the industry is doing in that regard?
Yeah, and so
Right.
storage is really just a beautiful concept because you're able to take
Well,
that
it's good-
production and shift it to
It's
demand.
coming, it's coming, it's
Yeah,
getting better.
it's there. And honestly, the state's doing a lot of work. We participate in these regulatory meetings with the joint utilities and the state, and kind of, they're just trying to figure out how to value storage. How to, what is it worth to the grid? It's even more nascent than solar. And so there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, but it's coming. What about the state grants? Do you go after those that you mentioned?
No, those are reserved for the municipalities.
So
Those don't really help us.
how would we use the state grant in this example? Because you're developing this.
Yeah.
So how would we use a state grant?
Well, if it's a development that you're kind of encouraging and you're helping to facilitate through the planning board, you can simply apply for it. The Clean Energy Communities grant is really, it's really 10 main action items. Community choice aggregation is one of them. LED lighting, street lighting is one of them. There's a number of them. If you hit 4 of those, you're eligible to apply, and I mean, that's $250,000 that you can use to.
Okay, they would be grants to use help us build the infrastructure to use the energy in some way.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's really just, knowing that you're kind of encouraging development in your municipality is what affords you that.
Yeah.
And NYSERDA have you gone through NYSERDA?
Yeah, NYSERDA, we're very active with NYSERDA. Those are the representatives we typically deal with when we're up in the state, these regulatory meetings. They have a plethora of information out there, which I highly recommend you utilize. We're actively involved.
So I would say that the board is interested in if you put together a proposal and with recommendations, then we'll meet again, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more questions. Of course, it's a pretty big project, so
Certainly.
we'll make sure we do the right thing for the town of Marlborough.
Okay.
So,
No, nothing.
would that be all right with the board?
Fine
Yeah,
with
it's
me.
good. yeah.
Okay.
Will do.
So, is anybody out in the audience like to come up and ask a couple questions, or?
James had a question.
Yes. If you want to come up, you have to mention your name and where you're from, and I think I want to give you the,
I got a big mouth.
Yes, hi, I'm Russ Gilmore. I have just a quick question I couldn't help but notice. People of Marlborough hypothetically go ahead with this project, you build it over on, Bailey's Gap Road, 2 megawatts. Do the people of Marlborough get full benefit of that 2 megawatts, or is that megawatts transferred to Central Hudson, who can then distribute it wherever they want to? And if so, how do the people of Marlborough financially benefit from that?
That is the number one question, and it's kind of part of our initiative. Again, I guess just sort of to kind of recap, the power itself, it's not point A to point B, right? The power itself is very much so just going into the grid, and the utility compensates or provides the owner of that facility, whoever's producing that power, with a credit. That credit, they put a value on it. It's then that credit what we enter into an agreement with, and it's very dependent on who we enter that agreement with. If we were to enter the agreement specifically with the municipality, those credits would only benefit the municipal accounts, the firehouse, the police station, schools. In the case of a CCA, that benefit is spread to everybody in the municipality, everybody in the program, which could be multiple municipalities. So the way that would work is, say there is 2 facilities in the CCA program that we're procuring power from. We get all this power. We then distribute all the credits that we received from those facilities as the CCA administrator, and we distribute them equally among the residents based on, proportionally based on how much energy they use, right? And so in that case where, the CCA acts on behalf of the entire municipality, residents, businesses, that power purchase agreement, instead of going straight to, a municipality and their accounts, or, a Walmart and their singular account, it's now everybody's accounts. Everybody is afforded those benefits, and again, the more solar, the better.
Okay. Well, I certainly support the idea of solar, but I ran a power generation system, a diesel one, down in Harrison, and we made an agreement with Con Ed, similar to what you've been proposing to the board here. And summer came along, we got a call from Con Ed, okay, throw up your generators. We had 3 750 kVA generators, super generators.
Wow.
We turned them on thinking that in the municipality of Harrison, everybody was going to benefit from that. But the power was actually transferred down to Dobbs Ferry, which was having a power shortage. And it, kind of evened the bills all the way across. Nobody saw any change in our bills. And I just want to make sure that, if Marlborough goes ahead with this, that Marlborough benefits from that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time, and looking forward to that proposal, and, yeah,
Absolutely.
sounds good. Thank you very much.
Good job. Thank you.
All right, let's move on.
Comments on the agenda? No comments? New business. Because there's a primary on September 11th, we have to talk about what? Yeah, but 11th is, yeah.
Set up, yeah.
I'm getting there. So I asked the school, and their big office is available, so we could just have it up there, if everybody's comfortable with that.
I'm good.
Yeah, everybody good? Okay. Just some cleanup stuff from last meeting. Scott brought up about the time card. The time card punch has been fixed. And also the employees during that day when they waxed the floors, they took vacation days. So it all worked out. Did a great job on the floors too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So on the workshop topic, train station community room, I finished that and Danielle went through it. Scott, I put civic group and nonprofit, no fees. Changed to resident, like we discussed before, $300, non-resident $500. I did look into the locks. I agree, for the amount of money you pay, I don't think it's actually a good system. Rather have Tom go down there, open it up for them, check it out.
See how it works there.
Yeah, and then go back and close up and say, and refund their security.
Good with that. Do we take fishing license out?
We don't need a fishing license. Took that off.
And boats? The boats?
Took boats off, right?
Took that off. Took the boat and the fishing off. Also, with the board's approval, I looked at the noise ordinance and it said 10 o'clock, so I put from 8 to 10, if the board approves that. So I think this is in fairly good shape. I passed it through the clerk, and they liked it. And
So this is the agreement form we're talking about?
This is the agreement I'm talking about, yes, for the policy for the train station.
Train station, yeah, okay, yep.
If you need more time, we could act on it next meeting.
I mean, it can always be changed if we find it's not
Yeah.
working. So,
So I think it's in really good shape.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
So can I have a motion to adopt the policy for the train station?
I'll make that motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, Alan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved.
Scott's staying over here.
As you know, the bids for the train station is on the 30th, right, Daniel?
Yeah.
The 30th? Okay. Next on workshop topic, I put Tomback lease agreement.
Let's see. Oh,
So we,
is it the same?
it's with John L. Lease Realtors.
Same John J. Lee, same
It's a new agent.
different person.
John James.
So
1% less in commission.
it's up to the board, but because I don't want to sell the Tomback building, I can't vote yes. I won't vote yes, I'll vote no. But, just keeping with the feelings I have about Tomback and how valuable that piece of land is up there, and it's ours. And I was thinking about this today, and we had different groups look at where to build a new town hall. It always seemed to go to Tomback, and we own that property. And we've also looked at other properties around town, and it seems like that was the most prevalent place to build a town hall or anything like that. So I didn't want to lose that. So I was thinking about that today, so I can't, in all full consciousness, vote yes.
I know, that's what I expected.
But I had to give my
I
opinion.
just want to make the note to the guys, because it's the standard, same agreement we had with John Jay. Different representative, we're changing representatives. Catherine DiOrio is going to be the representative. She worked with Denny Barr, same office, same space. I think she's a little more aggressive. Met with her. She seems to be a little more aggressive. She's got a lot of good ideas. She actually lowered the rate 1% in the previous contract too for commission. So, that's why we're bringing it back up, because our contract had expired, and they're willing to keep trying to put it out there, if the board's willing. So, I'll make a motion that the supervisor signs the lease agreement,
I'll second that motion.
and then we have to make a vote. So we can do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you in favor? Ed?
I'm in favor, yes.
Okay.
Yes?
Howard?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you, Al, but let's see if we can sell it. So
Okay.
I think we just need to get serious about selling it, so.
She
Just a
sounds
bit-
very serious. She's
Okay,
gonna
I'm
have the
very-
drones out
Howard,
there. She
I'm
has
extremely
different
serious
things,
about
ideas.
selling.
Are we,
We have the original agreement right now.
yeah. So is there any time frame? I mean, we're just going to keep on going with this thing?
I'm gonna shoot
this is
for
9
as soon as
months.
possible.
That's 3 years ago.
Well, that's what it takes, and it's not a house,
My
it's a
biggest
commercial
reasoning
lot.
behind it is I just don't think the Tomback will ever be a town hall. I've seen all the plans, I've been here through 5 or 6 plans, and they're just not feasible to pay for it at this time.
Well, you know that they changed the state law as far as the occupancy. You could have 300 people, so.
That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm just talking because last time there was a problem because of the sprinkler system was huge.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but there also was the last time, taking the sprinkler system, you were looking at $5.5 million to renovate.
No, we were just talking about the $250,000 that Scartatos was going to give.
That's not gonna pay for the
That's
whole
not even gonna be
renovation.
close.
No, we're talking about a recreation to bring it up
You
to a
just said
rec.
you wanna
No,
be
no.
a town hall.
Yeah, we're going back to
The
that.
reason I talked about the town hall was that if we let that go, we don't have a place
So
to
you want
put
it
a
to be a
town hall.
recreation building, and then down the road be a town hall?
Yes.
Yeah, but,
Okay, I don't ever see it being a town hall.
but every time I brought up, let's put the town hall there, let's do this, or let's do this with it, it was, oh, it's too hard to pull in, it's too hard to put out, if it's dangerous, and now we're gonna put a community center there. I don't wanna rehash this, we have meeting after meeting about this. Community
So
center needs to be put down.
I'm just
in the
asking, what's the time frame?
As
I
soon
mean,
as
As
possible.
we wait and wait, the building deteriorates and deteriorates, we're not putting any money in it? we just put a furnace in? I'm just asking. I mean, is it
Well, this,
Well, I think
forever
after.
until we sell it?
After
9
it,
months right now.
after it wasn't a town hall, I got on the board, Al, and the building just sat there empty. We said, let's put it for sale. So
I mean-
maybe it should have been sold and it didn't become a town hall or a police station.
Well,
That's probably
I'm
when it
just
should have been
saying
sold.
that the rec committee would like to do something with it. They think
Well, if
they
the rec
could-
committee can come up with $5 million, they can do
No,
something.
no, not as a recreation town hall, a recreation where they could just fix it up where it is.
What are you gonna
Fix
fix it
the
up?
bathrooms, the air conditioning,
Where's
things
the
like
money
that.
gonna come from?
What Al's saying is we
At the
don't have,
250,000 from Scartatos.
we don't have to sprinkle it. Is that what you're saying now? Because
Mm-hmm.
they've changed the requirements, and that was 125,000
But-
of the 250K. So
Okay,
now we
so
have
then-
125,000 more.
So then you take the $250,000 from Frank's Cortados, which we think is free, which isn't nearly enough to even do it. So you're probably going to be talking about $400,000, which would be funded by the taxpayers. Then all of a sudden you put the work
no,
into it. Al, let me finish. Then you put the work into it, and then you say, well, we can't sell it now because we just put all this money into it. And
Well,
now we got
no,
a
we would
building that's
decide
I
all-
don't
not to
want to
sell.
sell it, that's the point. Al.
But
we
that's,
decide not to sell it.
that's your angle.
Doing this, though.
And now all of a sudden you got a building that should be generating taxes, that's acting as a recreation.
$16,000
Let me
in
finish.
taxes.
I'm going to finish.
Okay.
That should be on the tax rolls, that's acting as a recreation center, that's not really a recreation center, that sits outside of the hamlet. If we have the opportunity to sell this building, we take the money, and we reinvest it into a recreation center that's near the schools and in the hamlet and in the sidewalk district. It sits in the middle of nowhere. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, I disagree.
All right.
But I'll just say one thing, and I can barely talk. But I know you're very passionate about this, and I give you credit for that. But you were supervisor for 4 years prior and tried to do this and didn't.
No, I didn't
So
succeed.
it could have been done 4 years when you were
Right, and the
supervisor.
previous administration
So
before
when you,
that
but I mean, when you
tried
say
it too.
we've had it for sale for 3 years, you had it for 4 years where you could have built something and you didn't.
Right.
So I don't want to see where you're saying put timetables on something when you didn't have.
Well,
a
wait a
timetable.
minute, are you
Well-
saying for 4 years? I mean, that process was a different board. We went from
I
the
was there.
Pinnacle
I
building.
agree with that too.
We went through a lot of things. I mean, if it was up to me and I had the board that was willing to do it,
I agree with that.
I mean, it all depends on the board, right? If they didn't really think that it was viable to do that. But the previous administration almost came to a conclusion that, yeah, they wanted to build a town hall up there, and they fell short because of the financing.
We almost did.
Well, I guess-
Almost, yeah.
I guess we're
But
saying,
that's all I'm saying, is that the land is very valuable, and it belongs to the town of Marlborough. That's all I'm saying. We looked at by the landfill, we looked up there, we looked here. It just makes
I mean,
sense.
personally, to me, I think if you really wanted to keep it something that's a municipal type use, I think that's a better use of a building for the Ulster County College than this building is. Because it's not being used, and they could actually fix it up and make it usable.
That's a different
That's a
story. They like this
No, I'm just
because-
saying if we're saying what's a good
Yeah.
use for that building, and
I
it could be
imagine,
used by
yeah.
local people,
well,
that's
let's,
a perfect place for it.
we have a 9-month contract here with this person who's going to be more
But we
aggressive.
have someone that's gonna be aggressive.
Let's hope
yes.
that she's aggressive, because I agree with Al. It's sitting there, we had to invest, what, $2,500 in a new furnace or something like that? Stuff like that's gonna happen all the time.
We also
And
spent
we're not really maintaining it like
We
a
also spent
building.
$110,000 in engineering costs trying to figure out where we're gonna put that. I mean, we had 4 different plans for that place.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not disputing that, Ed.
That was a waste of money.
But you were on the board, so, I mean, you approved the money.
I did, but it was a waste of money.
But I mean, let's think about it. How many, and what, how long?
Because the plans that came back were ridiculous.
I just had a voice, I just,
All right, so let's get on
I
this.
agree,
Sign
I
it.
agree.
We voted.
I just had a voice, I'm the only one that is voting no, so I
Well,
want to
we're
do.
gonna have to start a problem.
We're gonna have to do something,
All right, so
but let's
it's
see
3
what
to 2,
happens.
sign the agreement.
Let's see what happens this time.
Motion approved.
I'm done.
Okay.
I can't talk.
I have no correspondence. Public comment. Okay. Going right to the resolutions. Resolution 87. To reappoint Board of Assessment Review member. As read, Supervisor Lanzetta proposes the following, whereas Joan Delatorre wishes to remain as a member of the Board of Assessment Review. Now therefore be resolved that Joan Delatorre be reappointed to the Board of Assessment Review effective October the 1st, 2017, and it moves for his adoption.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, Resolution 88 is to authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the Marlborough Central School District. And this is whereas the town of Marlborough has negotiated a proposed intermunicipal agreement with the Marlborough Central School District dealing with the providing of special resource officers, and whereas a copy of the intermunicipal agreement is annexed as Exhibit A, and now therefore it is hereby resolved as following. The town board approves of the intermunicipal agreement with the Marlborough Central School District, and hereto Exhibit A, and authorizes the supervisor to execute this agreement in the same or substantially the same form. It's in the form that we want now. And it was put to a vote.
Thanks. I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
yeah, we could talk about, everybody saw it? Everybody's good with it?
Yep, I'm good.
Thanks for following up on those questions, and Chief, thank
with the
you
chief.
for following up. on this.
So they're gonna pay for the FICA, they're gonna pay for the Social Security med, and the benefits, for the police officers, their retirement benefits. And you and the superintendent are in charge of when and when not to have them out there? Okay. Go ahead, Danielle, sorry. Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I make a motion to adjourn.
You're not gonna, come on, let's have some more debate.
This thing though, look at while we're talking,
Yeah,
where are we at?
before we close the meeting.
I saw his note.
So, yes. I got that.
We're talking about the big bids for, Milton Sewer Extension.
So the sewer district, we opened the bids, and there was a lower bidder, but because of the contractual, I'm really not obligated to say what's going to occur, what's happening. But Dennis is doing his due diligence to see if the lowest bidder actually has the criteria. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where we are now. He asked for certain documents. He hasn't received them yet.
Well,
Gotcha.
the second one, some we've used before.
Yeah. We've used, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a big variance here.
Yeah. But
I mean, the
with
rest
all
of the-
due respect, I was asked not to discuss everybody that was on the bid.
I got it.
This one, where did this guy come from?
It's public.
Okay. So we're all done.
Can I
Do
make-
I,
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
you can.
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, gentlemen.